Assalamu alaikum and good morning to all of you. Okay, so at the very outset, I would like to thank the Notre Dame University for hosting this event, and of course the Minda News and the Mindanao Institute of Journalism for spearheading this series actually of activities that started in Davao, and I think it will end here in Cotabato City. So my presentation is about radicalization and violent extremism in the Mindanao context. Here I would not give a lecture nor give a sermon, rather I would just narrate an anecdote. So for the outline of my presentation, you can see an introductory anecdote, and then the framework, statement of the problem, then some cases, selected cases, case 1 to 6, and then after that I will give my summary and conclusion. Okay, so are we ready for the first part? Okay. So in a peace building symposium workshop just last year, there was a casual conversation between a Muslim NGO worker and a Mindanao-based non-Muslim journalist. And this casual conversation led to a heated argument over the quote-unquote correct description for such groups as the Abu Sayyaf and the Maute. The Muslim NGO worker was arguing that they are un-Islamic because what they do are against the teachings of Islam. The non-Muslim journalist saying that since they are claiming Islamic, they are Islamic because they use Islamic symbols and justifications. For example, every time they would chop the heads of innocent people, they would say, Allahu Akbar, walillahil hamd. These are Islamic symbols. These are Islamic symbols with Islamic connotations. Okay, so for this presentation, my framework is that of Derrida's grammatology. I would not delve into the philosophical nuances of that one. Let me just say that heated argument actually calls to mind postmodernism's recurring themes, particularly Jacques Derrida's grammatology or semiotic analysis given in his writings. According to Derrida, who is a prominent postmodernist, textual, when we text, when we write, when we learn something from the news and radio, textual is the way in which the social world is constructed. And interpreting the world reflects the textual interplay at work, or the concepts and structures of language. It means to say, anything that we see in the social world, we first and foremost build them through our text, our textual building of those realities in the social world. And according to him, there are two ways of exposing textual interplay. One is deconstruction, and the other one is double reading. I will not deal with the double reading. I will just focus on deconstruction in the interest of time. When we say deconstruction in the jargon of Derrida, he is actually referring to the showing how all theories and discourses, our narratives, rely on artificial stabilities produced by the use of seemingly objective and natural oppositions in language. For example, light, darkness, knowledge, ignorance, white, black, friend, enemy. In this binary equation, usually we give preference to one and we downplay another, right? When we say light and darkness, automatic ang sasabihin natin, we are for the light. When we say white and black, we would say white, of course, the black would say, there's a saying that black is beautiful. And for this deconstruction of Derrida, his aim is not to come to a correct or even one reading of a text, but to show how there is always more than one reading of any text. So taking postmodernist Derrida's grammatology or semiotic analysis as the theoretical framework, this brief presentation, which is actually the working paper, shall explore the textual interplay at work in media reporting of violent extremism in Mindanao. So, using Derrida's deconstructions tool, it shall scrutinize these 5 terms. 1, radicalization or radical. 2nd is extremism or extremist. Religious extremism. Is it Islamic, un-Islamic, or Islamist? And then the 5th is Maute Group. So let us take the first case. The first case is what? Radicalization or radical. In PCVE, so we are already familiar, PCVE, Preventing and Countering Violent Extremism Trainings and Workshops. Usually the first question that is asked by the trainer or facilitator is something like this. Is to be radical or extremist necessarily bad and condemnable? It can be a rhetorical question as well as an actual question. By definition, when we say radical, simply it means one that advocates fundamental change. That's why radical na. And when we say extremist, one that holds a view or displays a behavior or action different from the usual. When we say, every time that we mention extremism or extremist, whether wittingly or unwittingly, consciously or unconsciously, we are actually creating in our mind a sort of spectrum. This on one end and then on the other end. And usually what is in the middle is what is normal. Both ends are called extremist. Left and then right, or whatever you will call it. In that case, we can say that George Washington was a radical. Why? Because instead of remaining under the flag of the British colonialism, George Washington, the founder of the United States of America, he opted for independence and he fought for that. In the eyes of the British, he was definitely radical. Of course, our own Andres Bonifacio was definitely an extremist in the eyes of the Spanish colonizers, because instead of just opting for reform, but still under Madrid, Andres Bonifacio, he preferred independence for the Philippines. So definitely, he was a radical and extremist guy. How about Nelson Mandela, a world icon, a peace advocate? For almost 3 decades, he lived inside the prison in a very isolated island. Nelson Mandela definitely was a terrorist. That's exactly the term of the British government, that he was a terrorist. Oh, by the way, how about the young Jewish man who had the audacity to turn upside down the money changers' tables in the Temple of Solomon? The same young Jewish man addressed his fellow Jews saying, "You serpents," addressing his fellow Jews, "Kayong mga ahas." "You serpents, generation of vipers, and an evil and adulterous generation." Just imagine that young Jewish, he must be an extremist during his life. Do you know who I am referring to? The references are also there. How about case number 3? Religious extremism. Is religious extremism necessarily evil and condemnable? How about a person who makes the vow of celibacy and poverty to become a nun or priest? How about a teetotaler? When we say teetotaler, we are referring to a person who totally abstains from alcohol on account of religious conviction. How about a non-smoker in a country or city of smokers who refrains from smoking due to a religious reason? Yes, they are religious extremists, but we don't condemn them. Do we condemn somebody who just prefers to be a nun out of her own conviction, but without forcing anybody, hook, line, and sinker of his conviction down the throat of another person? Could we condemn her? No. Could we condemn a non-smoker who refrains from smoking because of a particular religious reason or conviction? Definitely we cannot. Why? Because there is a missing element there. Once that element is within the equation, then we could condemn. And what is that missing element? Imposition, compulsion, or use of violence. When that element, that very important element is there, then we can say that is violent extremism. Nagkakaintindihan ba tayo? Okay, so let us proceed to case number 4, Maute Group. What is the origin of the appellation Maute Group? Do the leadership and members of the group explicitly identify themselves as such? A background study of the group shows that since 2013, Dawla Islamiyya or Islamic State in Mindanao or Dawla Islamiyya fi Mindanao and its precursor, Khilafah Islamiyya Mindanao Black Flag Movement or KIM-BFM, there was no such origination of the term Maute Group. In other words, they did not claim that they are Maute Group. Then who originates that appellation? If Google search were the basis, then the media that oftentimes erroneously describes Khilafah Islamiyya Mindanao as Khalifa, take note, the one is the concept, abstract concept, and the other one is the person. Khilafah and Khalifa are the two different things. Khilafah, the abstract thing, and the Khalifa is the person. Instead of Khalifa is also the one that cogently coins the appellation, obviously for convenience sake. Mas madali kasi sabihin Maute Group kaysa sabihin mo yung kanina. Either yung Khilafah Islamiyya Mindanao Black Flag Movement or sabihin mo na Khilafah Dawla Islamiyya fi Mindanao or its English translation, Islamic State in Mindanao. Katulad ng joke na ano ang paborito mong color? Paarte-arte ko siya, siya. Spell it, sabi niya na red na lang. Or yung artista, sino paborito mong artista? Arnold Schwarzenegger. Paki-spell na, sabi mo gently na lang ba? So, for convenience sake. then the question is, what is the justification for such term? Well, the founders of the group are two Maute brothers, Abdullah and Omar, and a good number of its members are the founders' relatives. That's usually the implicit justification. Granted that 10, say 15 members of the group bear the family name, Maute, is this hasty generalization justifiable? Is it reasonable to implicitly implicate in the popular court of public opinion the hundreds, if not thousands, of members of the clan to the group and its notoriety? Is this not playing the very game of the players one refuses to play with? No wonder, for individuals for whom drowning in the deep blue sea of stereotyping and guilt by association is imminent, befriending the devil of violent extremism is far a lesser evil for them. Imagine a child, a student boy, who is always accused of bad things, although he is not guilty of. Ang tendency sa ganon is they would also join. Okay, to make it clearer, no? Immediately after the Maute siege that was made, and then June is pasukan, napakaraming mga Maute, mga estudyante, let's say, sa Iligan, sa Cagayan, just because, or even in Manila, just because of the family name, they are being bullied, that they are terrorists. Okay, the fifth case is going back to the introductory anecdote. Are they Islamic or un-Islamic? The ISIS is un-Islamic. This is one argument. The activities of such and such groups are against the teachings of Islam. Those who commit such acts are not Muslims, even if they call themselves Muslims. Terrorism is haram. No Muslim is a terrorist. The fact is that with all their doctrinal sophistications and communication astuteness, these groups use Islamic symbols and theological bases in such a way that often appeals to the innate idealism and heroism of young Muslims. Of course, we can easily say that they are un-Islamic, but it is a sad reality that they use Islamic metaphors, symbols, and narratives. So after doing the Derridean deconstruction of the term Islamic and un-Islamic to describe certain groups, is a third reading possible? Can we come up with a middle ground? Can we find a neutral platform? The answer is yes. Apart from the term Islamic or un-Islamic, at least in my opinion, a favorable candidate is the term Islamist. It means to say that yes, they use Islamic symbols in what they are doing, but whether that is sanctioned by Islam or not, it is a different story. But it is a fact that they use Islam as their political ideology, whether correctly or not. Okay, so we are about to end with the case, with the sixth case, which is actually an actual media reporting. I invite you to one news article. The title is Troops Maute Group Clash in Marawi City by the Philippine Star Daily, May 23, 2017. It means to say this news item is one of the earliest that was released in the media about the incident. Let me just draw your attention to certain lines and let us try to deconstruct. Line 1, the Maute Group exposes hatred to non-Muslims. meaning it promotes, it encourages hatred to non-Muslims. So, once we read such lines or such lines, what we can immediately conclude is that this group is anti-Muslim. Yes, they are anti-Muslim, but the reality is that they are against the world. There are so many Muslims that they kill. And if you could remember the event, a week or two after the siege, there were dead bodies along a certain bridge. And those dead bodies, they put an appellation, a label, munafik. Munafik in Arabic means hypocrite. Hypocrite or traitor. Hypocrite or traitor is a term that is not used for non-Muslims. It is used for Muslims. So it means to say the reality is that this group does not expose anti-non-Muslim alone, but if you don't, anybody, whether you are a Muslim or not, if you do not subscribe to our idea, then you are an enemy. Either you are with us, or you are with the terrorists. It's a common phrase, no? Second line in this news item. Army intelligence sources said members of the Maute Group had infiltrated a gathering of hundreds of tabligh in the barangay. The reality is that the reporter of these news items seemed not to be in the place, and his sources, unfortunately, just counted hundreds. The reality was that the annual gathering of the tabligh reaches not only hundreds but thousands or even tens of thousands. Third line, the tablighs are missionaries engaged in da'wah or preaching activities that many modern Islamic theologians do not agree with. Let me bring your attention to the last line, that do not agree with. It gives an impression that the tablighs, since they are not approved by the moderate, it means to say they are extremists and therefore they are bad. The reality is that if you are aware with the tabligh movement, this movement is an apolitical one. Apolitical, it means to say it does not engage with direct political activities. They are just concentrating on the purification of the self, or what we call as inner strife. So with that, let me summarize my points by saying that by scrutinizing the 5 terms, radical or radicalism, extremism, religious extremism, Maute, and whether Islamic or un-Islamic, textual is indeed the way the social world is constructed. It is the same reason why we call part of the South China Sea as what? Ano yung tinatawag natin ngayon? West Philippine Sea. And the Benham Rise as the Philippine Rise. Because we want to construct a social reality by starting through textual way, and then after that, later on, we will believe in that social construction that we have. In Japan, huwag kayong maka-expect na ang Second World War ay itinuturo halimbawa sa Japanese history or whatnot. Or yung whole of South China Sea sa mga Chinese, itinuturo yan na part and parcel of the Chinese religion. So saan nagsisimula? Yung bawat nagsisimula sa textual. So as a middle ground, instead of religious extremism, an alternative term is violent extremism in the name of or under the guise of religion. So in conclusion, the universe is not a monopoly of binary equations. The world is not always a case of either you are with us or you are with the terrorists. Zero sum is not always the game in town. Ibig sabihin, between left at saka right ay merong mga lines or positions in between. In the Derridean jargon, there is always a multiple reading of the text. So thank you so much for listening. For the open forum, feel free to ask any question. There is no such thing as irrelevant or silly question. Everything would be relevant and very opportune.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Limba. We will have 30 minutes open forum for Dr.